all over this country, middle class people, working families are wondering how they're going to pay the bills, what kind of future exists for their kids. So the reality is that the middle class today in this country is in desperate shape, and the gap between the very, very wealthy and everybody else is going to go wider.
With unemployment at 9.8%, many Americans haven't had a payday in months. Yet, the Wall Street Journal says the big banks are on track for a record payday this year, just months after getting billions in bailout money.
From an economic perspective, the United States right now is in a unique historical position. On one hand, if you read the papers, this is what you find. Goldman Sachs earns $3.1 billion, beating estimates. Next article, Wall Street Journal. Wall Street on track to award record pay, huge bonuses. Next article, New York Times. Still on the job, but at half the pay. In other words, we have millions of workers who are working longer and longer hours, but the actual pay that they're receiving has gone down. In some cases, as much as 50%. So what you're seeing is a nation in which the people on top are doing extraordinarily well. We bailed out Wall Street to the tune of $700 billion. The Fed lent Wall Street companies trillions of dollars at zero interest loans. And the good news for them is that they are doing really, really well. Some of the executives on Wall Street are going to be receiving huge bonuses. We're back to where we were before the meltdown. But on the other hand, in the real world, let me tell you what is going on. The middle class is, in fact, collapsing. If you add together the fact that 9.8% of the people in this country are officially unemployed, add to that the number of people who have given up looking for work, who are not part of the official statistic, add to that the people who want to work full-time and who are working part-time, you know what you get? You get 17% of the American workforce is either unemployed or underemployed. That is a phenomenal number. And then you add to that those workers who have seen a decline in their real wages. Some of you may have noticed a couple of weeks ago in Detroit, Michigan, tens and tens of thousands of people stood online in order to get some federal help. Now, Detroit may be extreme. It's probably the worst off city in America. But all over this country, middle class people, working families are wondering how they're going to pay the bills, what kind of future exists for their kids. So I get a little bit tired of hearing folks talk about how the recession is over, we're seeing growth, we're going to see some job creation. The reality is that the middle class today in this country is in desperate shape, and the gap between the very, very wealthy and everybody else is going to go wider. And one of the things that we have got to place on the table as progressives is to say there is something profoundly and morally wrong when the top 1% earns more income than the bottom 50%, when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%, when CEOs of large corporations earn 400 times what their workers make. This is not what America is supposed to be. So with all of the issues that we're dealing with right now, and we're dealing with healthcare, and we're dealing with global warming, and we're dealing with Afghanistan, please do not forget about what is happening to tens of millions of our brothers and our sisters out there who are struggling hard to keep their heads above water. Thank you. Look forward to talking to you next week.